Hello, I'm Salima Davis, founder of Papillona, and today I want to talk about something very important, and that's how we manage our fears and our children's fears around the coronavirus. And in this video, I want to explain why fear, panic, and anxiety is bad not just for our mental health, but for our physical health as well. And then we can talk about how we can have those chats with our children so that we manage that panic and anxiety and keep them in the best possible health. So let's start with the basics. We have this strange belief in this culture that if we just worry about things enough, we'll somehow keep them at bay. Well, when we say it out loud, we can see that that's obviously ludicrous. Worrying about something does not stop it from happening. What worry and anxiety and fear does is it looks into the future, and out of all the possible things that might happen, it chooses the worst case scenario and then acts as if that's a reality. So not only are we not stopping this bad thing from happening, but we're acting as if it already has. And in doing so, we are robbing ourselves from the ability to be happy and enjoy life today in the present moment. Now, anxiety is rife in our community at the best of times. It's its own epidemic in the 21st century, and we all know how much it can affect people. The reality is that it is contagious, and it transfers not just from individual to individual, and particularly from parent to child. So don't underestimate the influence that your own anxieties will have on your children. But it also grows within the individual. We start by being scared of one thing, and then before we know it, it's transmitted onto loads of other different things, and we're just terrified to even walk out of the house. And nobody wants that for their children. But fear is also actively harmful on a physical level. So what happens when we're panicked, what happens when we're fearful, is that our body, our brain, releases the chemical adrenaline. And most of us have heard about that, and we know about the fact that the adrenaline is released so that we can go into fight or flight mode. And this makes a lot of sense when you think about it from an evolutionary perspective. For most of the history of mankind, our threats have been physical and immediate to our own personal safety. So when we are faced with a physical threat, we need to be able to stand and fight or run away. And what the adrenaline actually does on a physiological level is it diverts the blood away from our core functions like digestion out to our limbs so that we can run or stand up and fight. Now that's great in circumstances where you have an immediate physical threat which then passes. And once it has passed, our heart rate returns to normal, we can relax, the adrenaline dissipates, and the blood flow goes back to our central systems. Our body can reset. But nowadays, the majority of our fears are in our heads. And what is happening is that we are living in a very fearful state. So there is no opportunity for that adrenaline to dissipate. In fact, we are flooding ourselves with adrenaline all the time. And so those core functions are being suppressed. And those core functions include our digestion and our immune system. And it is vital that that is working at its optimum and isn't suppressed if we are to be in the proper state to be able to fight any viruses that are going around. So if you are someone who finds yourself taking comfort in fear, and be honest with yourself now, if you find yourself often going into conversations with friends and family members saying things like, "Oh, I know it's awful, I'm terrified to step outside the house," just stop it. Because it really isn't helpful and it is actively harmful. What you need to do is some research. We live in this marvelous internet age where there is an awful lot of information available to us on our laptops, on our phones. Just take 20 minutes and look at a number of different sources to find out what's really going on. Be careful of what sources you use. There's an awful lot of sensationalism out there. So check on a variety of different sites and make your own mind up about what actually the threat is. Now, it may be that you or a loved one has a suppressed immune system, and that for you, you're going to need to take extra preventative measures. Well, you can factor that into your research, but just make sure that you arm yourself with some proper facts. And while you are there, look up about the preventative measures. We know that worry doesn't help. It doesn't stop things from happening, but there are things that we can actively do to reduce the possibility of contracting the virus and to boost our immune system to make sure that if we do contract it, we are unlikely to suffer significant effects. And when you're armed with all this information, you can start then and only then from a place of calm to talk to your children about it. Now, when you start to talk to your children about them, you need to meet them where they are. You need to understand their fears and you need to acknowledge those. Don't dismiss them out of hand. But equally, you do not want to empower them. So start by saying something like, okay, I understand that you're terrified. There is an awful lot of fear and panic out there. Tell me, what have you heard? Don't assume that you know what they're hearing. Find out, because the way that you deal with this will alter according to what they've heard. My youngest Tiggy said the other day, Mama, is it as bad as the plague? Having just studied it in history. That's very different from my eldest, Kaya, who thinks that, well, this is just another form of cold or flu that we haven't come across yet. Within the same family, we've had two very different conversations. Start by meeting them where they are. And of course, you're going to be dealing with this in an age-appropriate way. If your 5-year-old has never heard of the virus, then why bring it up? But if your 14-year-old is hysterical, then you need to have a very different conversation with them. So meet them where they are, acknowledge but don't empower their fears, and find out what they've heard. And then because you have done your homework and you've researched the facts, you can talk to them from that place. And maybe you want to go online and say, look, this is the information that I found out. And then you're going to talk to them about their preventative measures. You're going to talk to them about things like washing their hands without it becoming an obsession. You're going to talk to them about boosting their immune system. Maybe you're going to talk to them about not shaking hands or not touching their face. But with all of these things, keep it light. If you can turn it into a joke or a game, then do. Maybe you're going to bottom bump each other a hello. Maybe you're going to have a game whereby the person who touches their face less wins a prize. Keep it light. Keep it simple and straightforward and non-intrusive, and don't let any of it become obsessive in its own right. We do not want to encourage our children to be washing their hands every 5 minutes. Be practical and non-intrusive in what you're doing, and you will find when you look at the preventative measures that they are very much common sense. Doing things that avoid spreading the disease, doing things that keep your immune system high, maybe taking a multivitamin, maybe making sure that you get good sleep, that you eat well, that you exercise. All of these things are very practical and very simple and very non-intrusive. And when you talk to your children about how you're going to manage these things, building in any additional protocols that you need to have around loved ones with suppressed immune systems, you also need to talk to them about managing the fear and panic that will be going around them at school. Now, even the best schools in the world, who are communicating very well and very sensibly, cannot control what's happening in the playground. So you need to pass on to your children the ability to keep calm and keep grounded even when other people are losing their heads around them. Because you need to reassure them that there are things that you can control, which are the preventative measures that we've talked about, and there are things that you can't control, and that's not up to you. If and when something happens, you will deal with it then. But at the moment, you're going to concentrate on keeping your immune system high, being sensible, and enjoying life, because that is the best way to remain healthy. So I really hope that this has been helpful. If you have any comments or any questions, please feel to comment below or to email me directly. I will answer as many questions as I can to the best of my abilities. Salima, SALEEMA @papalona.com. Please share this video and do come over to our Facebook group, because we've got an awful lot of support for you there. You know, anxiety is so horrid. It's just not a nice way to live our lives. And at Papalona, we want you to live your best possible life.